back me up and just say, okay, when you're first, because there's different stages in a career, right? You know, there's stage one where you're trying to have a downline.
Yeah.
You're trying to have someone in your group that'll stay for longer than 15 minutes. You know, that'll actually, and then stage two is if that duplicates.
Yeah.
You know, getting to duplication. It took me 3 years. I mean, you got there much faster than I did. But it took me 3 years to finally learn how to get duplication happening in the organization. Up until then, it was all on me. I was just recruiting, and I had this huge first level, and you know, virtually nothing second or third level. If there was anybody on those levels, I brought them in for those other people. Right. You know, talk about the evolution of kind of the lessons that you learned early on, because I think a lot of people, I have the $1 million a year earners on for a number of reasons. One is I want everybody to hear the common themes that all of them have in common, but I also want them to hear the early steps so they can identify with, oh, here's what he did, I can do this. Here's what they did, I can do this. So what were some of the early lessons that you learned in this business or in this profession?
Well, I'll share some of the very first things that I ever learned from Mark Hughes. I mean, number one, he taught me how to tie my tie. I mean, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I didn't even own a tie. And so here's Mark Hughes at 24 years of age at the time, the founder of Herbalife, and he knew how to have fun. And I think that's a really important word. And he said, look, you got to care more about your customer than you do about the money you put in your pocket. You got to care more about your distributor than you do about the money you put in your pocket. But it took me several years to really get that. I think when I first started, I had a fear of taking money from people because I didn't realize that I was a giver. You see, I think that's when someone's new to network marketing, are you a giver or are you a taker? Are you giving life to the greatest opportunity? Right now, in my mind, greatest opportunity we'll ever see in the history of network marketing is right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Bar none. And so are you a giver or are you a taker? You see, someone's busy, someone's got a busy business, and you think, you know, they got soccer schedules and kids are busy. And, well, they're not gonna do it. Money's tight. You know, the jobs are not as good as they used to be. And so I don't know if I could get them in a, you know, $1,000 investment to start my business. And so they're worried about taking.
Right.
But if you find the one and you give all of yourself to what they need, you know, if you ask enough questions, you know, the fifth habit of Stephen Covey, and by the way, I ask a lot of my audiences this question, and I ask it for a reason. My wife had Stephen Covey as a professor in college. That's kind of a unique experience.
Yeah.
Okay? I had these audio tapes of a program he had, let's see, it'd be 25 years ago now, and that program was called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was a workshop before it was a book. And the fifth habit is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so if we as recruiters can understand that concept, we're going to get ourselves and our own ego out of the way. If we're going to invest enough in what does Eric want out of this interview, how can I help communicate to the network marketer aspiring for, you know, his future growth or just making the bills this month, so to speak. So I ask audiences, how many have the 7 habits of highly effective people? I imagine you'd raise your hand.
Yeah, everybody, right.
And then my follow-up question is, how many of you can name all 7 of the habits right now?
Yeah.
And I never, ever get a hand. And then I ask the question, you see, that's why you really got to understand that it's not words for things that change you got to change. It's real. If the 7 habits are truly going to improve the relationship between you and your family and others that you're possibly recruiting, if they're really real, Eric, why wouldn't you know them? You see, because if your life's that important, why wouldn't you dive in and know them? I actually told Stephen this at his house a few years ago when I had a chance to be with him.
Right.
I said, I go into your stores, the Franklin Covey stores. The first thing I do is I ask the employee behind the desk when they say, can I help you? I said, yeah, you can help me. Name all 7 habits right now.
Never.
And if they do, I promise I will buy something from your store. If they don't, I will not.
Right.
And so I'm 1 out of 2 on that.
Really?
Equation.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Well, that's pretty good, man.
The guy nailed it in Chicago, and somebody blew it in San Diego. And so, you know, it's a fun thing to take it real. So back to your question. How do you do it? You've got to really understand first and foremost that people buy from who they trust. So how does someone trust you? Well, you're interested in them, first of all.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to pay attention to what their needs are. You know, if I'm running a phone room or if running a used car lot, I'm really about selling something this very minute and getting on with my day. But if you're going to network market, if you're going to recruit, recruiting is a process. It's not an event. My number one new distributor, who now does probably $1 million a year in his second year with me.
Okay.
Took me 5 years to get him to my house. And that was all because of trust. Eventually, when his clock came around to noon, Nathan, I think, said that on your show.
Yeah.
Your clock comes around to noon. Because, you see, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. If it's the wrong time in their life, it wouldn't matter if there's a pot of gold right here at the doorstep.
Yeah.
So I think that trust factor and understanding the fun factor, the friendship factor, all of these little things that are just golden rules.
Well, let's talk about, back up, because you mentioned fun a couple times. Talk about trust. You talk about being a real person, giving value. For things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better. All that stuff's real. Personal development, personal growth, a book to read and a book to write in. All of those things, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned a couple times now, fun. What do you mean by fun, and how do you incorporate that into the growth of your business?
Okay, so we're talking about culture. You know, you know more about more companies than I will ever know, okay? But what I notice whenever I'm in a hotel and I see another company having a meeting there, I sneak in there and just take a peek. The culture is different from one company to another.
Yeah.
It might be the age, it might be the demographic, it might be the look, it might be more health-oriented people, it might be more of an older baby boom crowd, shall we say, right? They all have their own unique features to the culture.
Sure.
Well, if your culture is one of, let's take it for granted that you're going to have integrity. If you have integrity, you have a product you believe in, you have leadership and management you believe in, they understand what their responsibility is, and that's huge, as you and I both know. That is just massive. If you can have fun and not take your life so serious, like literally have fun with people. I try to, people ask me, what do how am I doing today? And I say, I'm having the greatest day of my life. You know,
that's when we talked yesterday. That's what you said.
Yeah, that's a muscle.
Yeah.
You see, I practice that muscle every day. I make every day the greatest day of my life. And so when people come to my house, you're looking in a room here. You can't see the room, but this is a living room kind of area that I can hold 50, 60 people in. And I'll have a meeting here once a month or so with some of my leaders in Orange County and my friends, and I try to have fun at the party. You know, we have food and beverages, and you know, in our case, we're demonstrating our product, we're laughing, we're having fun. It's not the grind. You know, the business has to be on your time frame, your schedule, and have fun with people. Let them know that you're there to help them get where they want to go. My business partner and I, Lon Wardrop, one day you'll interview him, you'll crack up. He's just an absolute nut job, okay? But I mean, we're walking through the Pittsburgh airport the day before the Super Bowl last year, and Pittsburgh's in the Super Bowl, and everybody's flying out to go to the game.
Yep.
Well, he lived in Arizona. And so he's walking down, talking to everybody he can, asking them, why aren't they rooting for Arizona? We're going through the security line, and we almost get in a fight because he's like, hey, I think Arizona's going to win this weekend. I mean, so we're trying to laugh and have fun with people. And I get on an airplane. The lady says, how are you doing today? And I say, I'm having the greatest day of my life. And the lady, two behind me getting on the plane, she says, I'll have what he's having.